Hello there, I'm Mr. Vadia, and I'm going to be taking you in this course which is called Introduction to Database. Okay, so let us always remember the motto for the institution: play and hard work defines success. Okay, so now before we start the lesson, I'm sure you have ideas on especially the introduction to computers, so that you know now the importance of data and also how the data can be collected, and also how it can be prepared, and how also data is stored using different storage devices that we have. Okay, enough introduction, let's now dig in. So now the first unit we'll be looking at, so this is the content that we'll be looking at in the first unit. So the first one is what? The database system applications. So the purpose of database system, view of data, abstraction, instances and schemas, data models, the ER models, relational model, other models, database languages, which is the DDL, DML, database access for applications, program. So now this is just the introduction of what we are likely to cover in this unit. So as we dig in, we'll be able to explain more now on what these languages, the database languages, what they mean, what the ER model is, and also what the ER diagram is, and also how they are used, and also their importance. Okay, apart from that, we also look at the database users and administration. So you can see here the fourth point. So transaction management. So the transaction management, basically this is something to do with money, finances. So we'll also be able to look at this topic in detail now. Database architecture, storage manager, the query processor, database design, and ER diagrams. So we'll be able to even make the ER diagrams and also how they are supposed to be used. So ER model will be able to define what are entities, what are attributes, what are entity sets. Yes, and then the third from the last, we're saying we'll talk about the relationships and relationship sets, ER design issues, concept design. Also talk about the conceptual design for university enterprise, introduction to relational model structure, database schema keys, also the schema diagram. So now all these we'll be able to talk about them in detail, each one of them, and also give necessary examples, so that it can be easy for you to understand and to know what we are talking about. Okay, now having introduced the topic, we first need to know what database is. So when someone mentions the word database, so we need first to know the introduction, or rather the definition of this database system. Okay, so now here the first point we are saying, introduction to database systems, as the name suggests. So database management system, it consists of two parts, and the following parts are, so the first one is just the database itself, and then the second one is the management system. Okay, so now to start with, we'll start with the database, and then later on we'll also talk about the management system, or the database management system. Okay, so there's a good question here which is saying, what is a database? Okay, so now to define database, this is a definition which is the simple definition, which is easy for you to remember and understand. So to find out what database is, we have to start from data, what data is, which is the basic building blocks of any DBMS. So the DBMS, the DBMS, these four initial letters, they simply stand for database management system. Okay, so now the definition of the data, the data, we say these are raw facts or unprocessed facts. Yes, so data, these are facts, figures, statistics, etc. So having no particular meaning, for example 1 ABC 19 etc. So now if you look at this, the examples that are in the brackets here, we've got 1, we also have A, B, C, we also have 19. This is one of the good example or under the data. So now this information is not organized, so it is not easy for us to be able to know what the person was trying to talk about when they just wrote 1 ABC 19 and so on and so forth record. Okay, so now the definition of a record, we are saying the collection of related data items. So the collection of related data items. For example, in the above example, the 3 data items had no meaning. Like I said earlier on, this 1 and the 3 letters and this 19, they have no meaning. We can't conclude anything, or we can't say anything concerning the 3 examples here. But if we organize them in the following way, then they collectively represent meaning information, which brings us back now to the definition of what information is. So now the information, we can say this is the data now with meaning. So now there's a table here which is now trying to talk about the 3 examples which were given here. So now the first one is the law, then name, then age. So we've got two rows and also 3 columns. So now these names that you are seeing here, the law, name and age, under database we call them attributes. So now we'll be able to define what attributes, the definition of the attribute and also the examples. So the information, the way the information has been presented now, this is called the information, because the information here is organized. We're able to say this one is representing what? The number of laws. This ABC, it is representing what? The name. And also this 19, it is representing someone's age. Okay. So in a database management system could be viewed by lots of different people with different responsibilities. Okay, so now here is another example. We are simply talking about the table relation, which is we're saying the collection of related records. Okay, so now if you see we've got the first table, it is 4 by 3. So we've got four rows and 3 columns. This is now the organized data, which we are calling now the information. We've got the numbers from 1 to 3, which are under law. Then the letters are representing the names. It can be the names of any person. Okay, then the age is representing the number of how old someone is, how old the ABC is, how old the DEF is, and also how old the XYZ is. Okay, so this data has got meaning. We're able to know that, okay, no, this 19, it is representing this person here who is in the first row. So the columns of this relation, they are called fields. So the columns, like in mathematics, these are the three columns here. We call them columns. So the other name we can say also attributes or domains. So the rows are called tuples or records. So the rows here, where there is row 1, 2, 3, we call these as a row. Okay, so we are saying database collection of related relations. So consider the following collection of tables. The first one, we have table 1 and also we have table 2. So the T1 is representing table 1 and the T2 is representing table 2. Okay, so this is basically what we've talked about, so that's self-explanatory. Let us also take a look at this other example here. So we are saying the payroll officer needs access to staff details. So like we mentioned earlier on, you've seen this statement here immediately after the computer database, which is saying in a database management system could be viewed by lots of different people with different responsibilities. So now this diagram here, or this picture, is trying to explain what this statement means. So if you look at the center here, this blue thing here, it is called the database management system. And also we've got the central database management here. So now These are employees that are accessing data through the DBMS, which is the database management system. So they're accessing this data with different responsibilities. So the first person here with the red is accessing data for specifically for payroll officers. Then the second one, customer service advisor, who needs access to customer accounts. The third one is a sales manager who needs access to stock levels. Okay, hope this explains well the database and how different people access the database management system for different various reasons. Okay, so here we have that there's an example here which is saying within a company there are different departments as well as customers who each need to see different kinds of data. Each employee in the company will have different levels of access to the database with their own customized front-end applications. So you understand more what this statement means as we go on in this lecture. In a database, data is organized strictly in row and column format. So the rows, there are the rows which we are calling the table or the record, and also the data items within one row may belong to different data types. Okay, so on the other hand, again, the columns are often called the domain of the attribute, or the data items within a single attribute are of the same data type. Okay, so the notes continues. The collection of data, usually referred to as the database, contains information relevant to an enterprise. So now, which brings us to the question, what is management system? So what you've looked at is just basically for database. Then we now come to the management system or the database management system. So now we first need to know the definition of what this database management system before we can start talking about its functions, why the importance, and all that. Okay, so we are saying a database management system, which is usually abbreviated as the DBMS. Okay, DBMS is a collection of interrelated data and a set of programs to access those data. This is a collection of related data with an implicit meaning and hence is a database itself. The collection of data usually referred to as a database. It contains information which is relevant to an enterprise or any institution. Okay, so the primary goal of the database management system is to provide a way to store and retrieve database information that is both convenient and efficient. By data, we mean the known facts that can be recorded and that have implicit meaning. The management system is important because without the existence of some kind of rules and regulations, it is not possible to maintain the database. We have to select the particular attributes which should be included in a particular table, the common attributes to create relationship between two tables. If a new record has to be inserted or deleted, then which tables should have to be handled. Each table, should have to be handled. Okay, so now these issues must be resolved by having some kind of rules to follow in order to maintain the integrity of the database. We continue talking about the management system, the database management system. So the database systems, they are designed specifically mostly to manage the large bodies of information. So we'll be able to demonstrate and give examples again on what we mean by large bodies of information. Okay, so management of data involves both defining structures for storage of information and providing mechanisms for the manipulation of information. In addition, the database system must ensure the safety of the information stored, despite systems crashes or attempts at unauthorized access. Okay, so just to make you understand on this, the third point, we're saying in addition, the database management system must ensure the safety of the information stored. So the information stored meaning they are referring to security issues despite system crashes. So in case maybe the computer where the data is being kept crashes, the one responsible should be able to have the backup of that data despite whether the computer crashes or it doesn't crash. Backup is a must, it has to be there. Or attempts at unauthorized access. So the unauthorized access, these are people like hackers who would want to have access to maybe, for example, a certain company's information so that they can either maybe steal something from the company or just trying to bring down the company. Yes, if the data is to be handled among several users, the system must avoid possible anonymous results, because information is so important in most organizations. Yeah, for example, so you can even give examples of the organizations that value data a lot. For example, in army, I'm sure they value the data. They don't just give data to anyone, no. So the information that they have is so important. They are peacekeepers, so their job is to be protecting the country. So now if imagine now they start giving out information to people who they don't even know, meaning they are putting the country or the nation at risk of being attacked, because those people who know the secrets that maybe Zambia or any other country have. So now it is important to see now the importance of guiding and protecting that important data, especially. Or if maybe you have documents, someone else can be able to get access to your documents and use them to maybe even start applying for jobs, using them for other purposes. Okay, the computer scientists, they have developed a large body of concepts and techniques for managing the data that we are talking about. Okay, let us now look at the applications of the database management system, where now this data can be applied. Okay, a database management system is a computerized record keeping system. It is a repository or a container for collection of computerized data files. So meaning we don't require hard copies. These are files which are computerized, they are in soft copy. Okay, so now the overall purpose of the DBMS, which is the database management system, is to allow the users to define, store, retrieve, and also at the same time be able to update the information which is contained in the database on demand. Okay, the information can be anything that is of significance. So significance will mean the importance to an individual or organization. For example, my academic credentials, those are my personal files, and they are very important. So I have to make sure that I guide and protect them. Okay, databases touch all aspects of our lives. Some of the major areas of applications are as follows. So the first one is in banking. So I'll be able to elaborate more on what we mean by banking. The second one is airlines. So also go into details to understand how data is used, and also the purpose, the importance of the airlines having the database management systems. Also be able to talk about the universities, why it's important for the universities to be, especially to be keeping record of the students, new old, their lectures. Yes, be able to talk about all those things in this lecture. We also talk about the manufacturing and also selling. So this is now business, human resources, why they need the database management systems, and also how they use it. Okay, Let's start with the enterprise information sales. So this one basically is for customer, product, and purchase information. Accounting, mostly the data that they need is for payments, making payments, receipts, account balances, assets, and also other accounting information that can be necessary. The human resources information for about employees. So now this is the human resource. They need to have information, the database which should contain the information about their employees and also salaries, payroll, taxes, benefits, and for the generation of paychecks. Manufacturing, so for management of the supply chain and for tracking production of items in factories. So in factories, it can be any factory, whether it's a factory for maybe making biscuits, making dishes, making pots. Yeah, so they need the database management system for them to be able to keep track of whatever they are making, how their business is moving. Okay, so you see now the importance of database management system. So inventories of items in warehouses and stores and orders for them. Okay, so we go to online retailers. So for sales data, noted about first online order tracking, generation of recommendation list, and maintenance of online product evaluations. So when we talk of the online order tracking, for example, we can take this example like in Zambia, we have Zampost. So if you use Zampost to send something, they'll give you the tracking number. You can be able to track or check where the item, whether your item has reached or not, and also where it is currently. You're able to do that. Okay, so banking for customer information account. So the customer information we are talking about in this case, it is the personal information, personal details about someone. Yes, the accounts, the loans, and also the banking transactions which that person done or which the banks are able to transact. The credit card transactions, so for purchases on credit cards and generations of monthly statements. Finance, for storing information about holdings, sales, and purchases of financial instruments such as stocks and bonds, also for storing real-time market data, to enable online trading by customers and automated trading by the firm. Okay, so the three: banking, credit card transaction, and also finance, they are falling under banking and finance. We move on now. We go to universities. So the universities, why do they need database management system? Okay, so here is the reason why they need the database management system. So now for student information meaning their details, where their full names, their NRC, where they live, what phone numbers, and all that. Course registration. So the course registration, basically this is supposed to contain the courses that a student is supposed to be taking, and grades. So grades in addition to standard enterprise information such as human resources and accounting. Next is the airlines. So for reservations and schedule informations, airlines were among the first to use databases in a geographically distributed manner. So for reservation and scheduled informations, how to use airlines. Telecommunications, for keeping records of calls made, generating monthly bills, maintaining balances on prepaid calling cards, and storing information about the communication networks. So now the part for keeping records of calls that are made, this is where, and you have to understand that each and every call that we make is recorded somewhere. And also the texting, the text chatting, so let us also be careful when it comes to that. Yeah, we have to know what we are texting, what the information that we are sending online, because everything is being recorded this one. The world is growing, it's improving technology wise every day. So database system allows in response to any methods of computerized management of commercial data. As an example of such methods, they are typical in the 1960s. Consider part of a university organization that, among other data, keeps information about all instructors, students, departments, and course offerings. One way to keep information on a computer is to store it in operating system files to allow users to manipulate the information. The system has a number of application programs that manipulate the files, including programs. Okay, so I'm sure you understand what we mean, what the operating system files are. If you don't worry, we'll be able to touch a bit on that. So the database for the university is able to add new students, new instructors, and also the courses. Maybe the university has introduced new courses. The database should have that provision for adding, deleting, and also editing the information. Okay, so register students for courses and generate class rosters, assign grades to students. Assign grades, it is maybe someone has scored 80%, or the percentages, or they use raters. Okay, 85% is equal to distinction, meaning they are assigned rater A. Okay, compute grade point average, which is the GPA. It basically stands for compute the grade point average, and generate transcripts. So the transcripts maybe for a semester, or the full detailed transcript for the whole, if it's 3 years, the whole 3 years, 4 years, the whole 4 years. So the database should be able to generate and able to print the detailed transcript for the students. Okay, so basically these are the purposes of the database management systems. Okay, we move on. So system programmers wrote these application programs to meet the needs of the university. New applications are added to the system as the need arises. So if there is anything new that may arise, the programmer is able to add to the system database management for the university or any other institution. Okay, for example, suppose that the university decides to create a new major, let's say in this case computer science. As a result, the university creates a new department and creates new permanent files. So the computer science, it needs to have its own department and also its own files, or adds information to existing files. So to record information about all the instructors in the department, like, okay, so this is the number of lectures that are in the computer science department, the instructors, and also the students that are majoring computer science in this case. The course offering under computer science, if there are long courses or short courses, the database should be able to, the programmer should be able to work on that. The degree requirements, so someone who wants to do a degree in computer science, what are the requirements? What do they need? Do they need the full grade 12 certificate, or is just the grade 9 certificate for them to be able to start studying the degree? Okay, so the university may have to write new application programs to deal with rules specific to the new major. New application programs may also have to be written to handle new rules in the university. Okay, thus as time goes by, the system acquires more files and more application programs. This typical file processing system is supported by a conventional operating system. So the system stores permanent records in various files, and also it needs different application programs to extract records from and add records to the appropriate files. Okay, so now, before database management system were introduced, organizations usually stored information in such system, like keeping organizational information in a file processing system, and which has got a number of disadvantages. And now let us look at the number of the disadvantages that this system had before the introduction of the database management system. Okay. So the disadvantages of keeping organization data in a file processing system. The first one we are saying is data redundancy and inconsistency. Since different programmers create the files and applications programs over a long period, the various files are likely to have different structures, and the programs may be written in several programming languages. So by data redundancy, I mean, okay, I'll be able to give examples on that. So moreover, the same information may be duplicated in several places. For example, if a student has a double major, say let's say music and also mathematics, the address and the telephone number of that student may appear in a file that consists of student records of students in the music department, to be specific in this case, and in a file that consists of student records of students in the mathematics department. Okay, so this redundancy leads to higher storage and access cost. So meaning there will be a lot of duplicate. So in addition, it may lead to data inconsistency. That is, the various copies of the same data may no longer agree. For example, a changed student address may be reflected in the music department records but not elsewhere in the system. Difficulty in accessing data. Suppose one of the university clerks needs to find out the names of all the students who live within a particular postal code area. So the clerk asks the data processing department to generate such a list because the designers of the original system did not anticipate this request. There is no application program on hand to meet it. There is, however, an application program to generate the list of all the students. Okay, so with that introduction marks the end of today's lesson. So now the second lecture will be looking at the unit 2. So unit 2 will be able to talk about the objectives that are supposed to be made, or the things that you are expected to know at the end of each lesson. Okay, thank you for your time. God bless.